I found myself instantly in this incredible sea of living light. It's so hard to describe accurately as I was a part of this sea. It was in me and through me. This space of light was alive and nurturing. Welcome to Let's Lift the Veil. Here we share real near-death experiences, stories that take us beyond the edge of life and into the unknown. Each testimony is a window into something greater, something unseen, yet deeply felt. What they saw, felt, and brought back with them might forever change the way you see life, death, and everything in between. In today's story, you'll hear from Leah, who was admitted to the hospital following her chronic illnesses and injuries. So take a moment, breathe deeply, and let yourself be transported. If these testimonies touch you, help us spread the word. Like, comment, share, and subscribe. Every interaction helps these extraordinary voices be heard by as many people as possible. Keep sharing the light. Stay curious. Stay open. Let's lift the veil together. I had spent years battling more than one autoimmune disorder, and had undergone a few surgeries related to my chronic illnesses. In addition to that, within the space of 13 months, I had undergone 2 heart surgeries, and a fractured spine that needed to be fused. The fractured spine occurred while recovering from heart surgery, while awaiting brain surgery to remove a tumor that was diagnosed the same day as the heart condition. I was losing my balance and peripheral vision as a result of the tumor, and consequently fell down a half-flight of stairs and broke my back. It was while in the hospital, with a post-surgical spinal infection following the fusion, that I began to leak cerebral fluid through my nose. The doctors told me that I could not wait to recover from my respective surgeries but would have to undergo brain surgery as soon as possible. I mention all this because I had suffered greatly, and because of that and a poor quality of life, I told my husband that under no circumstances did I ever want to be revived should I die. This had been long established, and I had a standing do not resuscitate. I even made my husband practice saying, "No, I do not want my wife resuscitated." I was adamant. On the way to the emergency room, I yelled, "Call Jason! Call Jason! I need to hear his voice. I am dying. Jason is my son." It was urgent that I needed to say goodbye to my son. Everything happened very rapidly upon my arrival at the hospital. I had vomited so much that I was dry heaving, but lacked the strength to bring my body into an erect position in order to vomit. Blood tests were run, and a diagnosis of post-surgical hyponatremia was made. I lapsed in and out of semi-consciousness. When the phlebotomist arrived to draw blood, my husband immediately recognized her as a phlebotomist we befriended during my frequent visits to the lab for regular blood draws. Her name is Shirley. My husband reported that she drew the blood, and her face went pale. When he asked her what's wrong, Shirley said, "I cannot tell you or I'll lose my job." My husband implored her, and she showed him a vial that looked like it contained only water. It was clear and not red. There were no live red blood cells, a foreboding sign of things to come. I can't say how long it was, until I absolutely knew I was within minutes of dying, but there came a point where I was certain of it. If you can visualize a soap bubble blown and floating in the air until it pops, that's what it felt like to me. My cells felt like bubbles that were popping throughout my body. When the ultimate realization came to me that I had 2, maybe 3 breaths left, I instantly became terrified of dying. I, like many people, had always flippantly said that I'm not afraid of dying. But here I sat, right on the cusp of my last breath, and I was afraid. I experienced the same kind of adrenaline rush one feels when they come within a hair's breadth of a life-threatening car accident. My heart was in my throat. I felt fear. Then came the shame I felt because I was going to die, terrified and feeling ashamed of myself. The feeling was sad, ugly, and overwhelming. Meanwhile, breathing was getting harder and harder. I had not been given any hallucinatory drugs or painkillers. Then I had an experience at the apex of my fear and shame. In all my anxiety and fear, I suddenly felt a hand rest on top of my right shoulder. The hand gently gripped my shoulder and drew me backward toward itself. I was enfolded into the arms of this magnificent, loving presence. There was no tunnel or journey. My fear and dread were completely gone, as if they had never occurred. I found myself instantly in this incredible sea of living light. It's so hard to describe accurately, as I was a part of this sea. It was in me and through me. This space of light was alive and nurturing. With me was a divine presence that I immediately associated with Jesus. I can only relate this experience as being in the universal womb of love. It is a love that is nothing like what we humans call love here on earth. I basked in this nurturing environment and received information via intuitive knowingness. I was told I would return because I still had work to do. With that, I was instantly back in the hospital room. My husband was sitting across from my hospital bed with his head down. I was positioned to his left and slightly above him, and I saw my body in the bed. I also saw a nurse in the doorway. She raised her voice loudly as she addressed my husband. "Mr. Winter. Mr. Winter, do you want us to enforce the DNR?" Strangely, I recalled me having made him practice saying, "No. Let her go." I was right there whispering in his ear, "Say yes, say yes." Suddenly, he lifted his head and said, "Yes. Do everything you can." As if I were drugged, everything faded to black. I would awake days later, surprised that I had spent 6 days in the hospital. My husband said I had rambled for days as if I were in conversation with God. After my near-death experience, I had instances of intuitive knowingness with a certainty that was uncanny. I never attributed it to myself, but as continuation of a two-way communication, started while outside my body. I can attest with absolute certainty that when the body vehicle is dropped, our consciousness does not blink, not even for a nanosecond. I hesitate to share this part, but because it did actually happen, and because I know that these experiences are part of the work I came back to do, I am compelled to share. There were more than a few instances that I still, to this day, find hard to digest with my human mind. A few of my post-NDE experiences came in the form of being the recipient of precise communications and information from souls who had transitioned, and who sought to offer assurance to a loved one who were grieving. One experience happened with a perfect stranger at the shopping mall. I also experienced an instant and insatiable appetite for mathematics and physics. I consumed volumes of books. I understood and could elaborate upon the thesis offered. I read dozens of books on ancient India, the wisdom of the Vedas, Upanishads, and the Mahabharata. I experienced myself as being a part of a living field, the Akashic field, the Higgs field, the unified field, the ether, etc. I further experienced everything as living sentience, and being humans as holographic fractals of Supreme Source. That is manifest in a form relative to our resonate frequency. There were also profound intrapersonal, spiritual experiences with animal sentience that defied human logic or expectation. Had I not recorded them, they would be hard to believe. As my meditation practices matured, I came to the realization that, at least for me, the place I went in my near-death experience was exactly the same place one visits during transcendental meditation. Thus, making meditation a valuable practice for mental, physical, spiritual health, and for preparation for that journey that begins upon death of the body. There is so much more, including another NDE, but this one is paramount and has had an everlasting effect on me. I recently required a high-risk surgery related to my aorta. Because arteries and valves were involved, it was essential that I have blood on standby for transfusion, should the robot nick a vein, an artery, or valve. When I told my surgical team that I did not want a blood transfusion, I received a mixed look of consternation, disbelief, and trepidation as I was bluntly informed that my life would hang in the balance. I smiled and told the young surgeons I had total confidence in them, and that I had no worries. There was no more fear, only a wonderful knowingness of the bliss that abounds when we leave this mortal domain. Life behind the veil. After what I had been through, years of chronic illness, multiple surgeries, and a life-threatening event following brain surgery, I can say with certainty that my experience changed everything. Although I didn't clinically die, something profound happened. In the days following my surgery, I felt myself fading. It was more than just physical pain or weakness. I felt life itself slipping away from me. That terrifying certainty that I was about to die stripped me bare. Despite having always claimed I wasn't afraid of death, I realized in those final moments that I was. Deeply. I felt fear, shame, and sorrow. But then, something extraordinary occurred. At the height of my fear, I felt a hand gently rest on my shoulder. That simple, loving gesture drew me backward into the embrace of an overwhelming presence. I was no longer in pain, no longer afraid. I found myself immersed in a living light that defies human words. It was not light as we know it. It was alive, nurturing, and all-encompassing. I was not just in it, I was it, and it was in me. In that space there were no boundaries, no time, no questions. Everything simply was, and I was deeply connected to everything. That presence to me was Jesus, though not in the traditional religious sense. It was more like a vast divine intelligence, filled with unconditional love. I didn't hear a voice, but I received knowledge as if it were imprinted into my being. I was shown that I had more to do in this life, and just like that, I returned to my body. I remember seeing my husband in the hospital room, and I even witnessed the moment he made the decision that allowed the doctors to save me, despite our agreement that I not be resuscitated. I had whispered to him in spirit to say yes, and somehow he heard. Afterward, I found myself deeply changed. It wasn't just about believing in something greater. It was knowing it. I no longer sought truth through blind faith, but through direct experience. I was drawn to nature, to symbols, to the teachings hidden in the caterpillar and the butterfly, in the salmon's journey. Everything became a reflection of a deeper, universal truth. I understood love, not the fragile, conditional love of this world, but a boundless force that holds everything together. And I came to see our hardships as opportunities, even gifts, meant to awaken us. This experience left me with an insatiable thirst for understanding. I delved into ancient wisdoms, physics, and meditation. I began to experience the same space I had touched in my NDE, through deep meditation. I also found myself connected in ways I couldn't explain, sometimes receiving clear and comforting messages for strangers from their loved ones who had passed on. It wasn't something I tried to do. It simply was. I carry this experience not as a memory, but as part of who I am now. It wasn't a dream or a vision. It was real, more real than anything I've known. And though I often struggle to put it into words, I feel called to live in a way that honors what I saw, what I felt, and what I now know to be true. Thank you for listening to this near-death experience. If this story moved you, please consider liking, commenting, and sharing it. It's a small action for you, but it means the world to this growing channel. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the next journey beyond the veil. Every click helps us give voice to these powerful stories. Take care of yourself and those you love. Until next time, keep sharing the light. Stay curious, stay open. Let's lift the veil together.